Hello and welcome to day 44 of the CoronaBLOG, May the 21st. My name's Mark Brophy, some background information and what I currently do. Interviews around the world. Today we're looking at China. We're going to look at the current situation and the help to business and families. China, where it all began. So, a 55-year-old patient from Hubei province, we believe, contracted the virus as early as the 17th of November. The timeline. The 27th of December was the first official notification of a strange pneumonia. By the 29th of January, all provinces of China were in lockdown. By the 25th of February, cases of the rest of the world in total exceeded the cases in China. By the 13th of March, the imported cases were greater than the local cases in China. And on the 6th of May, even the high school students returned. Today we're going to interview somebody in China. And we're going to ask about help to the companies, the self-employed, what assistance families have received, and whether he thinks everything has returned to normal, and are the restaurants busy? So, good morning. Here we are speaking to somebody in the country where everything began. So today we're speaking to somebody in China. So, good morning. Can you tell me your name and what you do for a living?
Of course, I'm Francesco Marano from China, Shanghai, as you said. I work for CPO Partners, which is an accounting and we do legal and tax advisory for companies, mostly European and South American companies that want to invest in China. I am the general manager of the Shanghai office.
Okay, so we're talking to somebody in Shanghai. Okay, now
Yes.
Can you tell me what the national or local government has done to help companies in China in this period?
Yes. First of all, China has a very, system which, there are the provinces with the autonomy. So make a complete picture of all the helps and subsidies that the government gave to companies is quite difficult. I can speak more in details for Shanghai and for some national policies. I can mention the main ones that almost everyone got, which are the cut of social insurances for employees. For example, companies that hire people, they have to pay, of course, like in all the world, more or less the name can change, but they have to pay some social insurances. In China, the government cut the social insurance considerably. To be specific, there are 5 social insurance company side. The government cut 3, like for 3 insurances, you need to pay 0, which is calculated this insurance a percentage on the salary of the employee, and for 2 insurances, half. These for 5 months, from February to June, yes. But then there are some differences for besides the sides of the company. The small companies get more benefits, the big company more benefits. So make a detailed picture is difficult. But as I say, the general idea was this: cut the social insurances. Then another important subsidy was for the rent of companies. If a company rented the office or the building, the factory, from an SOE, so from a state-owned enterprise, the SOE must give to the company 2 months of free rent.
Okay.
And this is also, actually, this is a subsidy that is different for each province, but each province put in force this in a different way. But it was, nationwide, so we can mention it. Then another subsidy is more specific for a certain small companies, let's say small scale VAT payers. They saw the VAT rate reduced from 3 to 1%. In Hubei province, which is Wuhan, where Wuhan is located, reduced to 0. In Wuhan province also they had more benefits, but as I said, it's very difficult to make a detailed list because then it depends also on the industry. Also, many industries, many sectors had specific benefits.
Okay, so for self-employed people, if we look at self-employed people, this would be the reduction of VAT you mentioned.
Self-employed people, actually no, because that one were still companies. In China, the self-employed people is a, how to say, a residual, we can say, area, because also here the lawyer, what we call in Europe self-employed people, they open a company. It's very easy.
Okay.
So they have a limited liability company, a small lawyer, or open a small company and operates. The self-employed people, actually, they didn't receive nothing because, as I said, it's like the woman that come to clean here the office. She's a self-employed people because she makes a service without being employee or have a company. This is, okay. we can say this is a residual part. And actually, for what I heard that there were not specific benefits for this kind of, let's say,
okay, so if we say there were no specific benefits, but it is such a small area of the economy, it's not really important. Is that
we can say analysis? Like this? We can say like this because here the small professional or employees for big companies or open a small company. So in China, let's say we can consider residual this category.
Okay, perfect. And for families, was there any help for families?
Also for families, the only thing that comes to my mind is the benefit to buy masks. I mean, okay. During the initial period of the which was the end of January, the government started to send to each family a voucher where you could book and buy a number of masks for your family at a very cheap price. So you receive this voucher, you could go to a pharmacy, you made the registration online with your cell phone. Here in China, the WeChat, the technology is very advanced. Everything online, they gave you time and date, you could go to the pharmacy to get these masks.
Okay.
Then for families, no, maybe the refund, yeah, maybe we can mention this. But also here there are some differences also among provinces. If you got the coronavirus, here in China, if you have the social insurance card, so if you work, like a big part of the medical expenses will be paid by the nation, by the state.
Okay.
If you got the coronavirus, you could also ask to the government the refund for the small part that you should pay by yourself, which is generally a 10–20% of the total medical fee.
Okay, good. So some medical help. Now we're looking for some optimism. China was clearly the first country to suffer this pandemic, and in Italy we were very close behind. Has everything returned to normal in China?
I can say yes. I mean, I speak with people from Italy, from Europe every day, and I can bring them a little of hope and I mean, good hopes, good vision on the future. If you check here behind me, there is the view. There is a street full of cars. I went outside before lunchtime. Here now is 3 p.m. To eat something down here, the office, the restaurant was full of people. So, of course, all the people still have masks here. Right now, I'm not wearing it, but if you go outside, 95% of people has still masks. Measures, precaution is still high. For example, at the entrance of the building here, they check me every morning the temperature, like the gun temperature. But outside is full of people. I mean, all the restaurants are open, the bars are open. So yes, the activities, the companies are open, full operational. The travels,
one
China in
specific
China.
question. One specific
Yes.
question on the restaurants, because the restaurants in Italy opened this week. When you say the restaurants are open, do they have the same number of people as before, or does every restaurant have very strict social distancing?
The restaurants have some rules. They clean, from what I see, they clean more often tables. They have a lot of disinfectant bottles everywhere, so they clean a lot. But the distance are the same. I mean, the tables, the restaurant I went before the virus and now, which are the same, the tables are still in the same place.
Okay.
And also, I mean, for the people, yes, the restaurants are full like before.
Okay, this is very good news for people who operate restaurants in Italy. Okay, Francesco, thank you very much for speaking to us. It's been good to see, hopefully, where you are today in Italy. We will arrive very soon. Okay, thank you very much.
I also hope so. Thanks to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So his name is Francesco. He's the head of a consultancy firm in Shanghai, looking at legal and financial compliance of companies, typically foreign companies in Shanghai. How has China helped companies? Well, in three ways. In most of China, there are some differences with the provinces. Social insurance, social security has been cut for four or 5 months, from February to June. Rent, there are some agreements on rent. If a company is renting from a state-owned enterprise, it has 2 months of free rent, and the VAT has been reduced. Self-employed people. Well, it's more or less a false question to ask, we've discovered, because most people in China are either employees or set up their own trading company. So self-employed doesn't really exist as a category in China. Families. Well, families have been given vouchers to buy masks. This is very nice, and a lot of help with anybody who had coronavirus was totally exempt from any medical payments. From what we understand, typically a Chinese person would have to pay 10 or 20% of the payment. With coronavirus, this was waived, cancelled. Has everything returned to normal? Yes, he believes more or less they're back to normality. People are wearing masks, but we're back to normality. Very interestingly, the restaurants, he says, are busy. The restaurants remained active throughout this period with home delivery, and now they have returned more or less to fully operational limits as before. So the strict 2 meter, 1 meter social distancing doesn't appear to exist in restaurants in Shanghai. China is the most populous country in the world, 1.4 billion. The active cases are nearly 0. So here we can see the peak was many months ago, and what we call the tail is very long, and it's approaching 0. Today we've looked at China, we've seen the timeline, we've had an interview with a manager in Shanghai, and we've looked at the number of active cases.